Hello, I'm Roslyn Palmer, and welcome to another episode of Monkey Business, the business podcast that really delves into the monkey minds, the chimp minds of business leaders so we can understand how they overcome that chimp chatter in their minds, in their brains, to really live the best life possible, both in business and personal terms. And I'm delighted today to be joined by Mary Storey, who is CEO and founder of Rosie May Foundation. Good morning, Mary.
Hi, Ross.
How are you?
Thank you for inviting me. Sorry, my earphones have just fallen out. Thank
You
you for
know what? We
inviting
just go with the technology. It's fine. I'm going to say that again. So, welcome, Mary. How are you?
me. Fine, thank you. Thanks for inviting me today, Ross. It's really lovely to reconnect with you.
Yes, so we did connect when I was wearing my former hat, really, of being head of marketing and communications for an international charity, and I believe at the radio show Girls Around Town. So I'm really delighted to have Mary on Monkey Business today because she really epitomizes the elements of this podcast, which is really about being a successful business leader and overcoming that monkey chatter and internal voice in your head, and also the challenges that all of us face in creating successful businesses, but also in really self management and in overcoming adversity in one's life and often turning those difficult times into benefits for others. And really, Mary, you are the poster girl for that story. So, would you like to just maybe introduce what you do in the Rosie May Foundation to everybody?
Yeah, sure, Ross. Thank you. The Rosie May Foundation was founded in 2004 in response to my daughter's murder, who was 10 years of age at the time. Rosie May was a charming, um, delightful girl, full of life, full of personality, loved every minute of every day. And when she was brutally murdered by a boy that we knew, our life turned into every parent's worst nightmare.
I can't even imagine. And this was what year, Mary?
So this was 2003.
And it was just before Christmas, was that right?
It was leading up to Christmas. It was a Christmas gathering of friends at a friend's house, and actually, it should have been the safest place in the world, Ross.
So, in terms of the utter devastation, and obviously people listening, as you say, it is every parent's worst nightmare, exacerbated by it being at that lovely time of the year, made even worse by it being in a place that she should have been safe with people you knew. In the immediate aftermath of all of that, how did you, your husband, and your family really, what was the inner strength, the grit, those resources that you'd probably never had to pull on quite so much before? What was it that got you through?
That's a really good question, and when I think about that, it's kind of almost kind of quite difficult to pinpoint. However, I think we made a decision really early on that actually, although this had destroyed Rosie May's life, that we were not going to let it destroy our lives. So I think that was a very conscious decision, and importantly, that we wouldn't let it destroy the lives of our two children. So, so it was a really conscious decision I think that we made there and then to do that.
And I believe a lot of people, as they do, it's a bit like what's happened in recent times when people are feeling helpless. They want to do something publicly. They want to, help in whatever way they can. And I believe quite a lot of people gave you money. So effectively, without really planning it, you are here with this amount of money thinking, what should we do to honor our daughter's legacy? And then synchronicity, fate, I do believe it's fate, had another interesting turn for you, because was that true that you were just deciding what to do with the foundation and the money?
Yes, it was. As you say, quite rightly, we never dreamed of having a foundation. Actually, it wasn't what we thought of in the early days. And we had this money, as you say, that came in from actually all over the world. Thankfully, child murders are rare, but obviously high in the media. So that happened, and we decided to. Just put it to one side. Actually, we just put it into an account. It was actually sent for our family. However, we felt that we didn't really kind of want to use it, so we put it to one side. And then we decided the following year, 2004, December 2004, to go away for Christmas. We didn't want to be at home. We didn't want the horrific recollections of the year before. So we decided to go somewhere where Christmas wasn't celebrated, particularly in the commercial form as it is here. Rosie May, being a 10-year-old girl, absolutely adored Christmas
Yeah.
and everything about it. So we went to Southeast Asia, and we were standing on the shore of an island just off the coast of Sri Lanka when the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami hit. So that was our catalyst and our inspiration for actually starting the foundation, because what happened was we had planted a little palm tree the day before on Christmas Day, a little tiny sapling, and thinking that that would have obviously been destroyed by the wave. We went back to look for it after the wave had gone, and there it was, and there it stood, completely untouched, with debris swirling all around it. And we felt at that moment, at that very moment, that was our inspiration to, to do something, as you say, to create a living legacy for Rosie May. And we came back, and we saw the death tolls rising on the TV, and we thought, well, maybe this is what we can do. And so our very first project was to open children's home in Sri Lanka for girls who had been orphaned as a result of the tsunami.
It's sometimes hard to carry on with this interview, to be honest, because what you're saying is just so incredible in terms of life-changing events for people. So, without turning this into a therapy session, I just want to backtrack slightly, because there we have, in the space of 2 consecutive years, two massive traumas, really. Our daughter has been murdered, then the publicity circus, I'm sure, and the legal case alone. I mean, people make movies out of these things. I'm sure that was incredibly difficult to navigate. And then to get away from it all, you go away and the tsunami hits. How, again, I'm going to go back to this mindset, this resilience. How did you not just throw your hands up in the air at that point and go, right, that's it. What else are you going to throw my way? I'm just going to drown myself in a bottle of vodka, or, whatever. And I'm not criticizing, I'm a therapist, but people, when they're overwhelmed with trauma, will often revert to activities that block everything out and that avoid having to deal with it. How did you manage to not do that? What kept you going? What inner voice, what inner grit, inner faith, inner wisdom kept you going through all of those times?
I think for me, it was, and still is, actually all about keeping Rosie May's memory alive and keeping her name in the forefront of people's minds, and in my own mind as well. We I quickly realised that actually, when a child dies, and then particularly if a child is murdered, obviously that compounds the stigma that's attached to bereavement of a child. You know, people would cross the street to avoid, um, talking to us and making eye contact with us. And so I kind of thought that if we didn't have this outlet, if we weren't able to have something to channel our grief into, something positive, then Rosie May's memory and Rosie May's name would most probably just fade away, because actually most people were not comfortable about talking about this at all. And it's often still the same now as well. It's kind of a different thing now, because when I tell people, then I just have to be prepared to cope with their reactions.
Mm.
But so for me, that was the driving force, that maybe this was something that could uh, represent Rosie May, and so that her legacy could live on almost through the lives of other people.
Do you mind just repeating that last bit? Because I think you caught your microphone when you were. Yeah, it's okay. So if you just go back to the bit about crossing the road and that people couldn't deal with it, because I also do want to dig down a little bit more about that.
Right.
Do you
Okay.
mind?
No, it's fine. So people would cross the road to avoid talking to us, to avoid making eye contact with us. So it was, I kind of thought, well, if I want to keep Rosie May's memory alive, then maybe what we can do is to create a living legacy that will enable her life to live on through the lives of people that we help.
And again, I do want to come on to all the incredibly positive things that came out of this, because effectively the charity and all the incredibly wonderful work you do. Just going back to that thing that you're coping with something enormous by most people's, frames of reference, shall we say. And you really have that determination to not let it ruin the rest of your family, your two children, your husband, you, to be a wonderful example to Rosie's memory, to keep her memory alive. But here are people crossing the street, not making eye contact with you. Why do you think, particularly in the West, we're so ill at ease and ill prepared with those difficult life issues, with death, with bereavement? What's your take on that, Mary?
I think I think people looked at us, and I think they thought, for the grace of God, go I. And I think particularly with our story, it resonated with so many parents, because every parent has been to that gathering where they go, there's other families there, they know everybody there, they arrive, the children go off and play with other children, and the parents, kind of hang around, chat with each other, that kind of thing. Everybody has been there and done that. And so I think for us, it was just so, the familiarity of it all was so terrifying to
To them.
people. This
Yeah, to
to
them.
them,
Yes.
this wasn't a stranger
No,
that
you
crossed
weren't
our
in the middle
path.
of Costa Rica and bandits came and
No,
yeah.
this was every day. We went out, we left our home as a family of five, and came back 2 days later as a family of four.
Yeah. And do you think that's why maybe in present times, and I don't want to obviously get into a massive COVID lockdown conversation, but clearly as a therapist, I'm seeing the fallout from all of this. Do you think that's why people are finding it so difficult? Because the normal stuff, the everyday stuff, the familiarity is the exact stuff that's been taken away.
Exactly, and that's causing the disruption, and it is. It's just those very familiar things that people or you don't even think about. You've never thought about them, have you,
No, having
before?
a coffee with a friend or going to the cinema.
That's right, and that's kind of like what happened to us. Um, as a parent, you see these things happening to other people. You never, ever even consider they'll happen to you. Why would you? Why would you? So then when it's that close to home,
Yes.
I think that's why we had the
And you
reaction.
cope clearly, but other people, it's triggering them. It's,
Hmm.
like you say, there, but for the grace of God go I. It's like, how would I deal with this? I have no frame of reference. This is too uncomfortable. Let
Hmm.
me cross the road. I mean, which is terrible, really, because I'm sure you would have probably rather people just said, I'm sorry for your loss. Or what would you have liked people to have said?
Not exactly that.
Mm.
Exactly that. Just to acknowledge. I think it's the acknowledgement, rather than obviously just the "How are you? How are you doing?" You need that acknowledgement, but and that's all you need really.
And how do you think you stopped falling into maybe, the pit of despond and a deep, deep depression? I mean, I heard a very interesting story about a woman who had a stillbirth and she knew the baby was dead, which is just awful, and went through the birth. And then they were lovely, and she held the baby and they took pictures. But then a nurse came in and said, "Oh, here are your antidepressants." She said, I didn't, oh, I don't want the antidepressants. I'm not depressed. And the nurse said, "Oh, you will be depressed. Your baby just died." And she went, "No, no, I will be in grief. I will feel like my heart has been ripped out of my body. I will, rail against probably everything, God, the universe. It will be an emptiness that only I can deal with, but I am not taking that label." And I do feel quite strongly about that story. Not that I'm against, antidepressants, but I'm probably against labels, really. So how did
Mm.
you manage not to be labeled or put into some place?
I think because, as I said, I think because we made that decision right from the outset to be a survivor rather than a victim. And you're absolutely right, to avoid the labels. And yeah, I think that was for us, absolutely just what it
And
was,
that
really.
beautiful moment of hope with the little palm tree. So galvanized with that hope, and Sri Lanka, or the island, was it the island of Sri Lanka?
Yeah.
How did you set the foundation, the charity up then after that?
Well, we set up a trustees board with friends and family, and of course, knew nothing about setting a charity up, of course. So we did that, and yeah, just kind of worked our way through it really, and we had great support, obviously, which helps. And the following year, well, actually, the following year we went out again on the anniversary of the tsunami. So we went back and we met the the partner, the partner charity that we were going to partner with for the Rosie May Home, and also we seed funded another project which we seed funded for a year before their church funding could take over and carry on with that funding. So yeah,
And was it that
so
same determination to honor her and really make this a living legacy that pushed you through the actually, I have no idea how to create a charity or all these things I have to do? Because I mean, I've worked in a charity, there's a lot of due diligence and a lot of, checks and balances you have to do. So not just raise the money and help the people and do it on the ground, but actually all the legislation that comes with it. I'm sure there were days that you probably went home and wondered what you were doing.
yeah, absolutely. But I made that commitment to dedicate my life to, obviously to doing this. So I was determined to make a go of it, and I did as you say, sit at my kitchen table for 10 years doing this and, waded my way through it. And, often it is quite a lonely place to be, actually. And then I decided to professionalize myself and the charity because it took me 10 years to actually realise, Ross, that to ensure that the charity was sustainable, that Rosie May's legacy would live on forever, was that, I had to change the model of the charity from being completely run by myself as a volunteer and other volunteers to have, some salaried people on board so that this could actually become a sustainable
Yes, so
international
it wasn't
charity.
just your project, but it became a true legacy.
It did.
And yeah, and I
Quite,
think that's
quite
probably where
organic.
we met, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Was that, yeah, more or less the
it
time
was.
we met,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, it was at that time. So I went back to university as a 50-year-old woman down with the kids and did a full-time undergrad course in global studies. I felt that, I needed to improve my, underpinning knowledge of development and linguistics. I also read with global studies, and then I went on to do an MA in global citizenship, identities, and human rights. And so that opened many doors for me. And in fact, you'll like this one, Ross. My professor told me that she made this analogy of me going to university as my coming out.
Oh, I love that.
I
I
know.
love that.
How would you like that?
Yeah.
Because previously to going to university, everything I'd done was very safe. And by safe,
Yeah.
I knew who my audience was. I knew who I was talking to. I knew that my audience knew my story, and that was how I managed everything because didn't have any surprises.
Mm,
I was in control. By going to university, I was that anonymous person.
mm.
Nobody knew me. And so I would get those questions, which, I didn't like. And so, that was how she made that analogy. And you know what? She was absolutely right because it was. And, it was the best thing, I have, could have done at that time. And consequently opened many doors, obviously, for the charity. And yeah, I loved every minute of it. Couldn't go
Well, I
to
think we're going to have to have a different, yeah, we'll have to have another podcast, scary things I have done in my 50s,
go
'cause
to university.
well, I retrained as a therapist and a coach, and then I, started internet dating as well. And look at me now. I'm in the best relationship of my life, and I've got this incredible career. So yes, yeah, scary things we have done in our 50s, but yeah, so brilliant self growth as well.
And I
And
think, sorry, can I
no,
just say, I think, when you ask me, kind of how do you do it? I think for me, it is pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. I think that, that ability to take yourself out of your comfort zone every single day. And I do it now. I'm doing it today now to do this with you.
yes, thank you.
Yeah. Well, but do you know what I mean? I could have said, no, I just not,
Yeah,
but to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and in the early days, that might have been just getting myself out of bed, and
yes,
putting the kettle on. That would have been taking myself out of my comfort zone
yeah,
because how much easier would it have been to stay under the duvet?
exactly.
And so that I think is the key thing, for me in order to the growth, the growth mindset, as you say.
And it does come from within because I mean, back in those times when you were going through, those bereavements and those shocks and those traumas, nobody would have judged you for not getting out of bed. Nobody. In fact, they
Yeah.
probably would have bought you a cup of tea, and said, "Yeah, Mary, why don't you just stay in bed, for the week?" And again, nobody would have judged you for not turning up here today. Nobody would have judged you for having a lovely little charity that did a lot of good, but didn't maybe go to the next level. So I love that has come from within, hasn't it?
Because I would have judged myself.
Yes, absolutely. So in your current charity status, what are you most proud of? Who are you helping the most, and what are the really heartwarming success stories that make every day worthwhile?
Do you know what? I'm proud of every single girl, boy, woman that we have been able to uplift, and not only people that we work with internationally, but also people here as well. Um, what COVID has done for us, if we're talking about positive aspects of COVID,
Yes.
it has opened a space for us to be able to work actually in our own local community.
Mm,
Previously to the pandemic, we worked internationally. We were based here, obviously, UK registered charity, but we worked in our international community. So when the pandemic happened and events dropped off the calendar and we lost 75% of our income overnight, I decided that we needed to pivot. That word I don't actually like that much, but
no, it's very trendy at the moment,
it
isn't it?
is. That's why I'm using it. So we pivoted to be able to work with our own community who are also now in crisis, because our mantra is we work with communities in crisis.
Right.
And so as a charity, it felt very natural for us to want to help the people around us. So we did exactly that. And we had a little pink tuk-tuk who we have called Rosie, has been completely personalised, and she helps us in the community to deliver essential items to people who are self-isolating, vulnerable, and very, very early on, we realised with those deliveries that, you know what, it wasn't about the delivery for, it was about human interaction that we were
Yeah,
able to give to those people who we were the only people that they probably saw, we, most of them. So that doorstep chat, albeit, 2 metre distancing,
exactly. Yeah,
2 minutes away, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, whatever
I
people
do.
wanted,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were able
Mm,
to give that. Whereas your Amazon delivery, your other kind of deliveries are just stopping and going, aren't they?
yeah,
So that has become the very essence of what we do. And in terms of mental health and raising spirits and giving good cheer, that's kind of the essence of what we do. And I think particularly now, through the lockdown 3, we're doing the same thing again, as we did in lockdown 2 as well. And we will continue this local program beyond COVID, because now this pandemic of loneliness has been hit.
absolutely. 100%. I write about it a lot. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
you've
we've
probably
seen it.
seen.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
we've seen it. So that's opened up a new space for us, and along with that, obviously, has come new funding, which we wouldn't have had access to previously because we didn't work here
mm,
in the
yes.
UK and work in our local community. And obviously, the awareness. I don't think there's anybody now in our community that doesn't know who the Rosemary Foundation is. I mean,
Because you have this bright pink, and for anybody listening who
absolutely.
doesn't know what a tuk tuk is,
Yeah,
do you want to just explain what one is and why
yeah.
you have it?
Yeah, it's a three-wheel vehicle. It is road legal, and it was imported from India, as they are into Sri Lanka. And in Sri Lanka, we use them. They're the most popular mode of transport, and we use them to train the first female drivers to drive on taxis to provide safety for other women and children. So they are resprayed bright pink so that they are highly visible, so that people obviously know exactly what they are and branded. So Rosie is an exact replica of what we use in Sri Lanka. So previously to COVID, we would use it at events, conferences, taking
Mm,
to schools, education. She wasn't on the road like she is now.
yeah.
So
So
so yeah,
Rosie is now on the road, and
Rosie on the
really
road.
helping break that cycle of loneliness and isolation that is so damning. I mean, it will shorten your life. I read a report, loneliness can shorten your life as much as smoking 20 cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
So, and again, I loved the pink tuk-tuks when you had them in Sri Lanka. Wearing my feminist hat, I love the fact that one of the reasons you did it was because none of those women were being trained, because it was a very closed market, wasn't it, for the tuk-tuk drivers? So
Oh yeah,
they
it's
couldn't they
male
couldn't be
dominated.
trained, they couldn't get a tuk-tuk.
No,
So you not only taught them to drive and drive the tuk-tuk, but you provided them with one. Also, it's a beacon of that kind of empowerment, and also it's a safe vehicle maybe for other women and children because they know that, there's a woman driver. Is that right?
exactly. I think that program, when you said, what's my probably proudest achievement.
Okay, we're going to just wait while you pick your earpiece up, but that's absolutely fine.
Sorry.
Thank you for making the unfamiliar familiar, Mary, today. And for doing it despite your reservations. So, your proudest achievement,
Well,
you were saying?
proudest achievement is the tuk-tuks, because it ticks so many boxes. It empowers the single mum driver, lifts her out of poverty so that she can earn a robust income to be able to provide for her family, and importantly, to keep her family, to keep children in the family and prevent separation, due to economic reasons. It provides personal
It is
safety.
actually better with that earphone in. I know it's annoying, but I'm going to ask you to put it back in again. I think this YouTube video is going to be a viral hit. It will be the, the accidental podcasters.
You're not going to have it edited.
I don't know how to edit the. I know how to edit the audio, but not the video.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay. I think it's lovely that we're so human. So you were saying it because it empowers women. It's a beacon.
It's a beacon of hope. It provides a robust income for the single parent mum drivers. It ticks all the boxes. It's digital inclusion because obviously they're trained to use a smartphone, and it keeps other women and children safe. It is getting women back into the job market. It's breaking gender barriers. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It is amazing. I love it. I absolutely love it. And people could get together to co-fund one of those tuk-tuks, couldn't they? So where can people find out more about you and how they could help these women and the local communities as well?
Yeah, if you just go onto the website, rosiemay.com, it's all there, and you can contact me directly through the website. But yes, I mean, we've had optimist groups that fundraise for Tuk Tuk collectively. We have people that dedicate a Tuk Tuk in memory of somebody. We have companies that will sponsor a Tuk Tuk and have their company logo on a Tuk Tuk. There's endless options. And I think the greatest thing about this project is that it's replicable globally.
Mm,
I think you can pick it up and you can put it in any country in the world, and that's just not, a third world country. I think you could do it here. Maybe
yes.
not in tuk tuks, but you could have it in London. You could have it, because it's a universal thing, isn't it? If you ask most women if they were having a taxi, would they prefer a female or a male driver? Most women will tell you they would prefer a female driver.
Yeah. No, I think that would be amazing. Yeah, what a phenomenal legacy. And this has all come from that resolve and that honoring of Rosie May, hasn't it? So I end these interviews on Monkey Business by asking people if they called their monkey mind their chimp mind something, and what has it mostly done for them? What would it be? What would that be in your case, Mary?
I don't actually have a name for it, to be fair. I just call it monkey chatter. I've always just called it monkey chatter. That's because my yoga teacher has always called it monkey chatter, I think. So I think that's kind of how I've always. But I don't know. I just breathe. I just think that for me, I just try and stay in the present rather than ruminating about the past, or about what happened or about what may happen. I think it's just all about kind of trying to focus and stay in the movement and in the moment and just breathe.
Absolutely. One of my best pieces of advice to people all the time. Thank you so much, Mary. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being so heartfelt, so inspirational. What an incredible legacy to Rosie May. I clearly didn't know her, but I feel I know her through you and through this incredible work that's being done. So it's a privilege for me as well. So thank you very much for joining us today on Monkey Business. I'm Rosalind Palmer, your host. If you're watching this on video, I'm sure you've had a lovely time. If you're listening to this on audio, it will be cleaned up. So thank you so much, Mary. I really appreciate it and have an amazing day.
Thank you, Ross. It's been fun.
Okay, bye.
Bye.